Morning.
Absolutely outstanding.
Fantastic.
Win, lose or draw, we're here and we're always here. It doesn't matter. Thank you so much for that, Andy. That's why there was a wee bit of delay, folks. Andy wanted to get his point across that it still is complete domination, and domination it is. Paddy, you were there yesterday, sir. 24 hours on, how are you feeling?
As you can imagine, Scott, it's still a bit raw from yesterday. Long day yesterday for us because of extra time and stuff. We didn't get home to the wee small hours because we had to get the late boat, but just very, very disappointing end. But something that we're not going to allow to detract from what's been a fantastic season for us. You know, we've seen real progress in Europe. We've won the league again for the 4th title in a row, and we've also secured the League Cup. And we came very, very close to lifting the treble at the end of the season. So we're not going to dwell on it in any way, shape, or form. It's just a bit of a cloud at the very end of a very successful season. It would have been lovely to round it off with a treble, but as Brendan said yesterday, you know, nobody has a divine right to win anything. Trophies have to be earned, and I think for the entire Celtic support, I think that yesterday shows you that, you know, despite what some people will think, that it's easy to win trebles and it's easy to win cups, it's not. And yesterday proves that. You still have to go out and do the hard work and do the hard yards to win these things. And unfortunately, yesterday, we just came up short. So just disappointed, Scott, but certainly not unbowed.
Correct, mate, correct. And Andy, you met up with our Jerry off the pod yesterday for the first time ever. How did yesterday go, mate? And 24 hours as well after the event. How are you sort of reflecting on it today, pal?
I'm all right, to be honest with you. Obviously disappointed. Nobody wants to lose a final, especially when you're looking forward to what should have been a treble, really. Great to see Jerry. Absolute nut job, but brilliant. And all his family as well. And that's only a fraction of his family. And brilliant people. Really good. Met quite a few. Talking to loads of people in there as well. So, obviously you're disappointed, but put it in perspective with, you know, the position that we're in when it comes to domination, and as total domination. Calmack's first final defeat, you know, he'll learn for that. Yeah, you need to lose stuff to realise how important that is when you do win stuff, to appreciate it. And there's a man that's won everything in Scottish football. He's got so many trophies. But as I said, it's his first loss in a final. So he'll come back stronger next year. He'll be really determined with a real hunger. Sometimes you need defeat to restart you as well, because we certainly didn't deserve to win that game yesterday. I don't think we did. I thought we were very, very poor. I think Aberdeen were fantastic either. They set out their game plan. Very defensive. You could see that for the start with the 5 at the back and the 3 midfielders. And at times, you know, that midfield was flooding into the back line as well. It was making it very difficult for Celtic to actually create anything. But we take our medicine and we move on. We've won 2 trophies this season. We're still in an absolutely fantastic position. Congratulations to Aberdeen for winning as well. They converted all their penalties perfectly. So that's what happens, you know. If you let it go down to extra time with penalties, it's a lottery. So I think we got what we deserved, but it was nothing.
Aye, very strange, really, when you consider 10 days ago, Paddy, we sent our reserves up to Aberdeen and gave them an absolute shoeing. They're pretty much the same team, mate. 5-1. You know, those guys sitting on the bench yesterday must have been really, you know, thinking to themselves, what do we need today? You know, it was a Baron Hatate and Jota. It was the strongest team that we could put out. You know, looking at that starting lineup yesterday, mate, was there any sort of surprises in there for you?
No, pretty much as we called it, Scotty. That's just we just thought about the one big question really was who's going to take the place of Rio Hatate, and the debate between Bernardo and McCowan. And I think we were all in agreement on Friday night that it would be Bernardo, and Bernardo it was. The other one was obviously, would he start with Maida through the middle and have Forrest and Kuhn, or would he just persevere with Ida? And that's exactly what he done. So no surprises for us whatsoever. And, you know, again, when you see it, he's probably thinking, right, yes, we travelled up to Petrori with a Shadows team, and we put 5 past them there, but, you know, we wanted to go back to the tried and test it again. and to give the players another chance to see this treble over the line. So absolutely no surprises for me in any way, shape or form. And, I was actually quite pleased with the team because I thought that's probably as strong as it gets for us at the minute. And we should have more than enough in that team to see off Aberdeen and see them off in 90 minutes, to be honest.
Aye, and the starting lineup, I think the majority is predicted it. Sorry, I think Michelle was the only one that had Trusty instead of Scales. But bar that, I think everybody else had the same sort of side. Any surprises in there for you, mate, in that starting lineup?
No, when it comes to Brendan's choices, I think I was kind of expecting it. I'd like to have seen Yang or maybe Forrest get a start. I think Forrest deserved a start, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't want to single out Kuhn, but I thought he was non-existent in the game. So maybe Forrest would have been worth a shout there. But Brendan's a man. He's a man that makes the decisions. So overall, I wasn't too surprised with the choices they made to start the game. We kind of predicted that anyway, that the choices he would make. Whether we think different or no, it's doesn't really matter, does it? Because I think overall, even when, like say, when Yang came on and stuff like that, that's when you were looking for a real change in the game, and I didn't really see it. I don't know about you, but nothing really changed. It's very, very strange. It was just, I think the writing was on the wall. You can usually tell in these games, can't you, if it's going to go for you or no, and it just wasn't getting that feeling. The longer we left it, the longer it was 1-0. It was a scrappy goal we scored. It was a scrappy goal they scored as well. So, it was going to be one of these games that was probably going to be decided by penalties. And I didn't hate penalties, mate. I couldn't even watch off of them. I had to just turn away, and I just couldn't do it. I hate penalty kicks.
Aye, there can't be any major finals I've ever seen that have been, 2 own goals in a final as well. So I think that's got to be up there. So, Paddy, first chance we had, mate, really was on the 27th minute. It was complete domination in that first half by Celtic. Aberdeen couldn't even get out their half, but we weren't really creating anything, mate. And on the 27th minute, Greg Taylor had a shot, a raspberry shot. It was just over the bar, mate.
Yeah, and we were in the stadium where we were sitting. That's what we were saying. Exactly, just what you've just alluded to there. The fact that we were completely dominating in the possession. You were getting great link up with Kuhn and Johnson down the right hand side, with Taylor and Maida on the left. But there was just that lack of goalmouth action, really, Scotty. That's what we would say. Plenty of the ball, buzzing around the edge of the box, but nothing really, nothing to write home about. We were saying that, we'd love to have seen them putting over a few crosses to give Ada something to actually go for in the 6-yard line. But, we kept recycling the ball backwards again. And, the number of times that Maida, we were screaming at him to commit his man and drive into the box. And Nicholas Kuhn, as Andy said as well, he seems to want to cut back inside on his left foot all the time, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine because we've seen him doing that. But let's have it lead to something. Let's have a rattle at the goals from 20 yards away that he has done in some of those European games. But it's just this tip tap round the edge of the box, and definitely up where we were sitting, where that was the consensus of opinion, is that listen, we're having all the ball and all the play, but we've not forced the Aberdeen goalkeeper into making a save. And that's what you need to do when you have that level of dominance and that level of possession and stuff. You need to create, and you need to turn that into goals. And the only way to do that is efforts on goals. So it was a fantastic effort from Greg Taylor. But there was one or two other times, McGregor on at least one occasion, Kuhn on at least 2 occasions. Even Liam Scales a couple of times. We were looking at him. He was in a perfect angle for having a shot. But they seem to, this constant need to recycle the ball again, back to the wide area again, and that became the theme for the day.
Yeah, and he's bang on there, Andy, what he's saying, about recycling the ball. Brendan's not going to change the way he plays. He said that, if we have to go backwards to come forwards, that's just the way we're going to play and try and tire teams out. And I thought the way they were going down with cramp and all the rest of it was sort of working. I thought there's no way they're going to see extra time, but we'll come on to that. But it's just to allude to what Paddy was saying there. Greg Taylor had that shot in the 27th minute, and he done well to come in and give us that extra man in the midfield again, didn't he? And that's where we got that complete domination for, was Greg Taylor's movement. He was unlucky with that shot, Andy, on the 27th minute.
He was, but you're limited to that kind of taking chances like that, which is, you know, you're never going to break teams down with having pot shots for outside the box, especially a team that's get their whole team basically stacked up in the outside of the box. It's just, it's not going to happen. You need to move them about. You need to, that's the only way you're going to tire them out. They're rigid for the whole game. Everything's getting played in front of them. You're not making the defenders turn and face their own goal. That's the thing. You're passing it from side to side. Nobody's taking there's no real movement trying to cut through the defence in any way. I thought we lacked real creativity and imagination yesterday. It was always easy ball. Nobody was trying to make that brave pass, really, to cut Aberdeen open and make them work. I think they found it very easy, because it's all right looking at possession, but if you're starting for your back, and then they're only going so far and they're passing it to a midfielder, and then it's going side to side for that point, there's no real penetration from my point of view. It's just, Brendan isn't going to change. He's a possession-based manager, and I totally understand that, but possession means hee-haw unless you're going to do it and wait, and we didn't do it and wait yesterday. You'd shoot, hit the bar, and Engels hit the post. Taylor had a shot, it was over the bar. You had Maeda. I know we're probably going to talk about this, but it's coming out of my mouth now, so I'm going to say it. And Maeda as well. When he was through in goal, he looked very sluggish when he was going through on goal. Usually, I know it's end of the season, he's got a lot in his mind that with his wee baby being born. He's not seen his baby yet. But, you know, I think every player was off it yesterday. Just a lack of invention. It was a really difficult game to watch. It was a terrible, terrible final. Severe lack of invention and a cutting edge to your team. We should be used to setups like this, because we face it in most games we play as this kind of setup. You've got to break teams down. We've had to do it many, many times, but certainly towards the end of the season, our performances have been pretty poor, to be honest with you. They've been pretty unimpressive, a lot of performances. And you can look at the one against Aberdeen the week before, where our reserve team went up there and beat them. They learned for that. They certainly learned for that when it came to the final as well, as don't let them try and get through us, because they'll tear us to bits. And they were very disciplined in the way they went about things.
Yeah, set up very well, tactically right, and that's how they ended up winning the game. So, Patrick, on the 39th minute, we got a corner kick, it comes in. CCV gets up and headers it towards goal. It hits an Aberdeen defender on the shoulder and it trickles into the corner. 1-0 Celtic.
Yep, and very well received up where we were. We were actually just talking at that time. I think some of the players had gone down, and we were speaking while the physio was on the park, and just saying, you know, this would be the time to get one now, just before the break. It would give us a goal. It would seal the domination that we've been having over the first half, and it would have Aberdeen. So again, it was just brilliant to see. From where I was starting, Scotty, I really didn't get a great view of what exactly happened. I just seen Carter Vickers getting his head to the ball, and there was a bit of a scramble, and the next thing it's in the net. So I had to wait until later on to see the replays. But listen, that's all you're wanting. You know, we were getting some really good deliveries from Bernardo and from Engels in the first half, right into the danger zone, and you know, you're just praying that somebody gets a head on one, and you know, similar as he did at that end in the League Cup semi-final against Aberdeen earlier, he gets his head on a ball and it ends up in the net. So it was just brilliant for us to see. Just great. We just thought, right, that's it. That's the breakthrough now. We've made the breakthrough, and that's a real dagger in the heart of Aberdeen just 5-6 minutes before the break. So we were absolutely delighted at that stage.
Aye, and Andy, it's very subdued celebrations because nobody really knew what was going on. But we thought Carter Vickers had scored it, and then when you see the replay, it does come off the Aberdeen defender. So Carter Vickers didn't really seem to celebrate, did he? It was kind of weird.
Well, he was kind of getting the credit for it. It wasn't until I seen the replay that I actually seen what happened. When seeing it in real time, I never had a clue what happened with it. But it was obviously an own goal. And sitting next to Jerry, he was worried about who was going to get the first scorer. Can I think he had Cal Mack done as a first scorer? He went, how's that going to affect me? Surely they're going to reinstate this and change it if it's an own goal. You can't have that. And so you know what Jerry's like. So that was quite funny from that point of view. I was just expecting Celtic to kick on for there, to be honest with you, because it's pretty disappointing up to that point. But sometimes you think, right, okay, it takes a goal to maybe change even Aberdeen's aspect of things. You go, well, we've got nothing to hold on to now, so What's the point? It's a final, go for it.
Yeah.
Didn't really do it, and it didn't really change to kind of later on in the game for them.
Aye, and Paddy, Andy makes a great point there. We've seen it this season already. We've got goals just before half time, and we've went on to get 1 or 2 or 3, even 3 more. In that sort of 5 to 10 minute with the added on time. It looked like we were going to go on and get that second goal before half time. It sort of gave them that shot in the arm that we needed, but it just didn't materialise at all, mate, did it?
No, it didn't, Scott. We were thinking that this will be the turning point in the game. Now we've made the breakthrough. Aberdeen will be devastated at not making it into half time, which obviously was Jimmy Taylor's game plan, right? Get out, frustrate them, defend for your lives, and let's see if we can get in at half time 0-0, and then we can regroup. So we just thought that was a devastating blow for Aberdeen. And just like the League Cup semi-final again, even straight from the kickoff, you could see the Celtic players, they could smell blood. And as you say, the League Cup semi-final was the same. I think we scored either 2 or 3 goals in a very short space of time.
Yeah.
And Aberdeen went from suddenly being 0-0 to being 3-0 down. So we were thinking this is the spark that will ignite us. And again, just as Andy says, we were thinking, this is going to bring Aberdeen out. They're now losing 1-0 in the cup final. They can't sit in. It's not going to end well for them if they continue to sit in. And if they do come out to try and attack us, it will leave us the space that we need to hit them. But as Andy said, they were so disciplined. Even at that, their game plan didn't change one iota. And what it looked like to us as the game wore on was that Jimmy Taylor had said to them, right, if we can still be within touching distance going into the last 10, 15 minutes, then we might have a bit of a go. And that's exactly what they done. But when that goal went in, I was certainly in no doubt at that stage that that's us. We're on our way here. But as I say, looking back on it now, if we had maybe if we had put the foot down, we might have got another one before the break. But I think with an initial burst after the goal, we just seemed to settle for 1-0 ourselves and go in at the break 1-0. And that was disappointing for me because I thought we should have really pushed it home at that stage.
Yeah, and Andy, it finished 1-0 at half time. And this is something I've touched on a couple of times, mate, on previous pods. Celtic were so dominant in that first half. I couldn't see a way back for Aberdeen in the second half. I thought it's going to be same again, second half, so on and so forth. But we've seen it before this season with Celtic. When there's a break, sometimes it's went for us and sometimes it's went against us. And Celtic and Aberdeen were 2 totally different teams in that second half, weren't they? Mental.
Aye, they were, mate. It just shows you, as you said, it you can get different reactions in different situations, and you're 100% there, aye. It's really difficult to come on here and talk after a defeat, but especially right after the game. So at least we've had a wee bit of time to kind of think about this and process it. I've seen people really over the one guy in particular in the venue I was in almost took the door off the hinges on his way out right at the final whistle, and it was an absolutely shocking reaction to that. And I thought to myself, I didn't even see who it was, but apparently it was a young guy, and that just says it all, that there's certain people at certain ages that don't know what it's like to lose, and this is maybe a wee kind of learning thing for them, that listen, you need to lose something to appreciate what you win. And that's how when people go on about tedious titles and stuff like that, and it doesn't it's no tedious, because if you're a certain age, you know what it's like not to win anything. So every single thing you win, you appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I don't even know. I've just went off on a mad tangent there. Apologies, mate.
Oh, you're just raging with that guy that kicked the door off the hinges still.
It was shocking, man. Shocking reaction.
And Jerry not getting his first bet up as well, his first goal scorer.
Maybe it was him. It might have been him.
It might have been Jerry, if you've never seen it. They said it was a young guy. They said it was a young guy, mate. It wasn't Jerry.
True.
Paddy, on the 63rd minute is when the game should have been put out of sight. Your man, Engels, ball slipped out to him on the edge of the area, who tries a brilliant left-footed shot, only to be denied by the post, my good man.
Oh, so unlucky, Scott. Literally just down in front of me. And he did brilliant. It was a lovely bit of play in around the edge of the box. For the first time, the wee 1-2s and the quick movement seemed to open up Aberdeen. And Engels he did so well. He dropped the shoulder and he cut the ball onto his left foot. And we were just like, it's just that moment where you're just waiting for the net to bulge. And the next thing, it comes back off the post. Listen, he couldn't have done any more. Like he did well. He created the space. He got his head down, he got over the ball, fired in a shot, and, you know, as I say, he couldn't have done any more. It's just, you know, sometimes these things go for you. You know, that goal goes in at that stage, you know, 2-0, half an hour to go. It's probably, the game probably ends up 3 or 4. You know, goals do change games. That's unfortunately, that's one of the things in football, that goals change games. And unfortunately for us, my view yesterday was that we didn't drive home the advantage enough when it was still 1-0, and we didn't create the goal scoring opportunities that our play deserved. Because I no doubt in my mind, if we had got a second goal, that was game over. Absolutely game over. Aberdeen, at that stage, we could all see that the Aberdeen players were starting to flag. They really were starting to show signs that they were struggling with the pace and struggling with the tempo of the game. There was a couple of them down with cramp and stuff like that there. So I have no doubt at all, if Engels had managed to get that one inside the post, that would have been game over. But listen, it is what it is. It's a cup final. That's what can happen. It's the bounce of a ball. But big Arnie there, I would have been absolutely delighted for him if he had managed to score one in a cup final. But listen, it wasn't to be.
Just touching on that as well, Paddy, just no long after that, Brendan started to make his substitutions.
Yeah.
You were a bit surprised with a few of them, weren't you? A bit baffled with them inside the stadium.
I was, Scott, because, you know, our thinking was, I mean, even up where we were, like, we weren't comfortable enough. We were comfortable enough with the domination, but we weren't comfortable enough that the game was over. There's no way, because obviously when it's still only 1-0, you know, and I said earlier that, you know, I was pretty sure that would have been Aberdeen's tactics, that to try to stay in the game, hang on in there. Don't let Celtic get 3 or 4 goals ahead. Try and hang in there. And then if we can get to the last 15, 20 minutes and we're still in with a shout, well, then we might let the handbrake off and do a wee bit. And that's exactly what happened. They threw on the big guy, and he caused us a lot of problems. But, you know, I just couldn't see, you know, Engels. I thought Engels was doing really well. I thought Engels and McGregor were running the show in the middle of the field. Even Nicholas Kuhn at that stage, he hadn't had his best game, but, you know, up on the stand, we were already starting to think, you know, if a goal goes in here now against us, we could be looking at extra time and penalties because it's getting late in the day, you know. And I was just staggered when the 3 players that came off, Ida, Kuhn, and Engels. That's 3 guys that would be among the first choice for your penalties if it goes that far. So we just found that absolutely mind blowing. Now, some of them may have been struggling with an injury. I'm not entirely sure, but we were absolutely gobsmacked when we saw those 3 players being taken off. And I think you can see the reaction of Arne Engels. I didn't see it until this morning. I didn't see the video again. He was not pleased at having been replaced. Don't get me wrong, Paulo Bernardo had did okay, but for me, if any one of the 3 midfielders needed to be replaced at that stage, it should have been Bernardo. And you can see Engels' reaction there when he gets back onto the bench. He's not happy. So it was a strange one. It really was a strange one. And I have to say, it was a point of debate on the bus on the way back down last night. Everybody was just saying, you know, Brendan needs to own those substitutions, because tinkering with the team at that stage, for me, it completely changed the complexion of the game, as well as taking off 3 guys who would have been, you know, those guys would have been red hot penalty takers if it had gone that far. So it was a strange one, Scott. It really was. It was a, you know, it's not the score of a game. Probably at that stage, I would be thinking, you know, Nicholas Kuhn, yes, maybe, but again, you know, Kuhn's a goal scorer, you know, and you're still looking for that second goal. And if there was anybody who was struggling in the 11 players, for me, it was Paulo Bernardo. I would have made that one change. I would have certainly taken Paulo Bernardo off at that stage, but I would have left the rest of the team as it was. But that's the decisions that the decisions that managers make, and that's why they get the big money. But for me, it was and people around me, it was very, very strange to see those 3 substitutions.
Aye, let's just have a quick chat about that then, Andy. The substitutions, you know, Bernardo was poor yesterday. He should have been the first guy coming off, 100%. And a lot of people have mentioned it in the comments as well, that, you know, he took off our penalty takers. You know, when you see the actual guys that ended up taking the penalties, they guys would have been our penalty takers. They got 10 off, you know, your Engels, your Ida, and your Kuhn. For sure would have been 3 of the 5 penalty takers. Very baffling, the substitutions, Andy, for me, and very surprised that Bernardo stayed on the pitch.
I don't think Bernardo had his best game, I've got to be honest. I don't think anybody did. I really don't. For me, nobody get pass marks. Nobody in our team get pass marks for me. I was calling out for changes. I think we needed changes. I think we needed something in the game to try and win it. And obviously Brendan at that point's not thinking about penalties. He's thinking it's not going to penalties. I'm going to make sure it isn't going to penalties. So let's go and win the game. So I think we need the changes. I think if he's thinking about keeping players on the park that's going to take a penalty, it's a very negative kind of thought to have if you're looking to win a final. So I can understand from his point of view, the changes had to be made at that time. Probably I'd actually made them sooner, to be quite honest with you. We needed something. We needed something because what we were doing wasn't working. You could argue all day about who it should have been, Bernardo or Engels, but one of them had to come off and he's gambled. Maybe it's the gamble's no worked out for him.
Yeah,
I agree with you. But Bernardo, I really like that player. But he didn't have his best game yesterday. I'll totally admit that and back you up here when it comes to that. But I can see what Brendan's strategy is. He's trying to change it to win the game. I think his mind's not even on penalties. Maybe it should have been. Maybe, you've got to think down that route. He doesn't want to think negative that way, that it's going to go that far beyond extra time anyway, to penalties. So I think his intention is get as much creativity onto the park as I can, because that's what we needed. We were really lacking that. And it was simply a gamble that just didn't work out, because when it came to a point we needed to take penalties, as you said, the ones that were going to be spot on to take them just weren't there. So it's just one of the gambles that didn't work out.
Aye, on the 72nd minute, Andy, we should have scored again. The ball falls on the edge of the area to Taylor, who hits another raspberry a shot, man. And the defender gets the smallest of glances off his head to take it out of the bar. But again, what a shot for Greg Taylor. Looked like it was going in.
It was a great effort. When I said Nave's pass marks, I thought he had actually a half decent game, Taylor. A couple of wee attempts there, and that's what you get for Taylor sometimes. At least he's going to have a go. Wee bit unfortunate there, the defender get the heat to it to lift it out. Whether it was going to go in, I don't know. It might have maybe hit the bar or something, or it's certainly going to be on target, I'd imagine. But wee bit unfortunate there. But that's what we were kind of left with, was pot shots for outside the boat. And we can go on about maybe you should be taking more shots, but it's very difficult when you get the most of the Aberdeen team in front of you. I can understand why they're passing it. Maybe I've not got a clear shot of goal, so I'll get to him and he might be able to make his space. And then all of a sudden, it's gone right out that side and then away back out again. You're basically gone from side to side. With no penetration. We were fine going side by side, and then maybe taking a wee shot and having a chance, but you're not getting a clear shot at goal. Their defenders done their job well. They got in the way of the ball and kind of stopped us really getting it and half decent.
Look at that point there for Thomas Tenement. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
All Aberdeen's penalties went the same way, while Casper went the other way. He just would not dive to his injured shoulder side. Yeah. That's a great fucking spot, by the way. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Is there anything to do with the fact that that's the shoulder that he lost the goal? I don't think that's any relevance, is it? Because it was his right it was his right shoulder, wasn't it? That
he went in for
that's the one when he went in to save it and it actually hit off like the underside of his elbow and went in.
Aye, great spot. So talking about that, Patrick, on the 82nd minute, Aberdeen brought the lad Morris on, who was very lively down that right-hand side. He breaks down the right-hand side, puts a wonderful ball into the box, but what the fuck is Kasper Schmeichel doing? Unbelievable.
Absolutely no clue, Scotty. And when you watch it again, it's very, very difficult to put up any kind of an argument for him. Sometimes you can see a goalkeeper or a striker or whatever, and you can see what his intention is. But with that one there, it's just mystifying to me as to what was he actually trying to do there. It looks as though he was trying to scoop the ball with his right hand, and I don't understand. I watched it again a couple of times today, and even the lads that I was watching the replay with today, why doesn't he just flop on the ball? Why doesn't he just fall on the ball? Why does he need to try to scoop it? Why doesn't he just drop on the ball? If he needs to do that at all. But when you look at the rest of the position of the Celtic players, there doesn't seem to be any danger. Even if he doesn't touch it, there doesn't seem to be any danger behind it or one thing or another. So it's very, very strange. So I don't know, Scotty. I just, he's been out for a wee while. I know there were a few people, one or two people were very surprised that, Sinisalo didn't seem to do an awful lot wrong during the time he was in. You know, and maybe there is an argument there that we should have just left it. We should have just left Sinisalo where he was, and you know, we should have just resigned Casper to the bench for the rest of the season to allow him to get completely over the injury. Whether the injury played any part in it or not, Scotty, I don't know. It just looks to me as though it was a complete and utter misjudgment from him. Whether he misjudged the fact that the ball was coming to him on that side, or whether he thought that there was somebody going to get a touch or what, I am not entirely sure. But for a guy who's been absolutely sensational for us, you know, in most of the season, it was a very strange one to see. And again, you can understand from my vantage point in the South Stand upper, you know, it was difficult to see. We couldn't really understand how the ball got into the net. We didn't really see how it got in. It was only when we saw the replay, we were like, well, how did that actually happen? So my initial thought was that the cross had been deflected by somebody at the front post past him, but it was only when we saw the replay that it was an absolute howler from Casper, and you know, he needs to just hold his hands up and admit that it was an absolute tragedy for him. As I say, what he was trying to do, I have no idea, but. The one thing that it did do for ourselves was, you know, our attitude at that stage was, look, we still need the second goal here, but you need to at least see it out at 1-0. We need to be prepared to see this out, and if we have to defend, we have to defend. But that goal just basically, it just ignited the Aberdeen end. I think they were just approaching the stage where I think they were starting to feel this is not going to be our day. We're just going to end up getting beat here 1-0. But that goal just breathed new life into the Aberdeen supporters, breathed new life into their team, and the substitutions that they had made then started to take effect because they had real fresh legs, you know, especially in the forward areas. They brought the big guy Habib on, they brought on the guy Morris on the right hand side, and all of a sudden, you know, it looked as though we were in major trouble. But honestly, I don't know. Casper Schmeichel, I don't know what he was doing, Scott.
He apparently apologised, Andy, to the team in the dressing room after the game. Sort of Brendan confirmed that, but I don't know if he was trying to do, like, you know, the Hollywood save, or what was he doing, mate? I still watching it back. I had to watch the highlights back for this podcast and then take some notes, and I actually rewinded it, mate, just to watch it again. I was like, what, you know, I'm not even a goalkeeper, mate, but I could have done better than what Schmeichel done there. He's a top class goalkeeper. It's just baffling, mate, what he was trying to do.
That guy Morris never seems to start for Aberdeen, but he's always brought on as a sub. But he's always a dangerous player. He's quick, you know, and he obviously get that ball across. I think I was going to say a lack of communication, but the ball's coming out that quick. There's probably no communication. I think Casper's maybe not been aware of who's been running about him or behind him, and he's went out to try and maybe block that ball coming out altogether, and it's just not worked out for him. Listen, they can make a mistake, right? You can't just go be a close to cup final because Casper's kind of made that move and put the ball into his own net. Shit happens, mate. You know, that you've got to remember, before his injury, Casper, all right, maybe a few weeks beforehand, had been kind of a wee bit dodgy in a couple of games, but overall this season, he's saved us so many times. You know, he's been a top class keeper for us. So I would be very reluctant to be putting any blame on him. The fact that we didn't win that cup yesterday, because listen, it's a whole team game. Everybody's involved. You know, you can look at players and say they've not scored enough goals to win us a game, and Casper's made a mistake that's cost us a goal, but we still had chances to win it. You know, after that, it's not as if that was the end of the game. We still had extra time to do it, and we still had penalties to take as well. So I'd be reluctant to put the blame in his camp, but that's the only thing I can think of is maybe no aware of who's in his surroundings and maybe who's behind him, and he's maybe just trying to stop that ball going advancing any further, and it's not quite worked out. He's no get down to get it in the right position. It's basically just scalped him underneath him and went in. Pretty unfortunate.
Yeah, and as Andy alluded to there, Paddy, on the 92nd minute, we have to win it, mate. Maeda breaks through 1-on-1. As Andy said, you know, it looked like he sort of was on fumes yesterday. We've seen it with his penalty kick as well. His mind was elsewhere. His penalty kick, mate, and the shootout, it was like he wasn't even asked if he went in or no with his face, you know. He just, I don't know what was up there yesterday. But he burst through, mate, on the 92nd minute. And, yeah, great save, actually, for Mitov, but he should score to win us a cup.
Oh, up where we were, Scotty, it was, everybody was on their feet. We were following him in as he was running. And you're just waiting for that moment, you know, similar to similar position to Odsonne Edouard all those years ago, whenever he struck the winner through against Hearts, and you're just wanting them to do the same. Just take a wee bit of time, take a bit of composure, lift it over the on-rushing goalkeeper, and the treble's in the bag. But you're right, Scott. For the first time in quite some time, I think the entire game, I think Dyson just showed signs that this was maybe one game too many for him. We've talked about his energy, we've talked about his drive, his enthusiasm and stuff. But for me, during even the course of the whole game, he seemed to be like a yard off the pace that he has been recently. He took his man on a couple of times in the first half, but most of the time he was quite content to take the ball down, recycle it again, back to the game, and he just didn't look like the same player. And listen, this is what some people don't understand. These players, as Brendan said, they're not robots, they're human beings. And when you think of Dyson recently, the number of games he's played, the amount of travel that he's done back and forward to Japan, I've seen somebody saying, his head's already in Japan. I don't think that's the case. I just think he looked wearied and looked tired. And even, if you even think back to the last minute at Ibrox when he runs through, he didn't show any real conviction. The Dyson Maeda of 6 weeks ago would have struck that away with no bother at all. You know what I mean? But for me, that just summed him up. He just looked sort of off the pace and he looked flat. And for me, it was no surprise. I'm not right to say it's not right to say that I didn't expect him to score, but I had no real sort of enthusiasm because he just looked tired the whole game long, and it wasn't a surprise to me in the slightest. Fair play to the goalkeeper. He comes out, he cuts down the angle, he makes himself big. But if Dyson's watching that over again, he'll just think if I just dinked that over him, there was loads and loads of space above the goalkeeper, and we could say at that stage it would have been game over. But it is what it is. As I say, these players are only human beings, and he's not the only player recently that's showing signs of the number of games and amount of traveling has finally just caught up with him. And sometimes it's just a game too far, and that's just what it looked like yesterday for Dyson.
Yeah, and Andy, you mentioned it earlier. We did have our chances in that cup final to go on and win it, and probably the best chance of the game was right at the death. And it's the man you want on the ball to stoke that in the net, but it just looked like he was sort of stretching for it as well. He didn't, as Paddy said, look his lethal self, did he? No. 6 weeks ago, he would have tucked that away.
Aye.
Yeah, as I said earlier, I think he's got a lot in his mind, and as you say, they're no robots, they're human beings. It's been a long, hard season for him. You can't dispute the guy's effort. He puts effort into every game. I don't think he certainly did look at it yesterday. When that pass initially came through to him and he was onto it, I was like, right, he's through now. But the last few seconds before he even went to attempt to kind of put the ball in the back of the net, it looked almost in slow motion for me when I looked at Dyson. I was like, it looks just dead slow here.
Yeah.
And I think everything's just took its effect. I think we were thinking he was going to get 40 goals this season, and it's just obviously we kind of baby being born and stuff like that. I think that's what it is. His family means the world to him. You know what I mean? She's playing with the dog outside there, and I'm going to end up doing minute in. Sorry. So I can understand that, it's been a long, hard season, but when he first get the ball, I'm thinking, yes, this is a goal. And then just after that, it was almost in slow motion. I was like, he just looks dead slow.
Yeah.
And he just never had the technique to as Paddy said, dink it over the keeper or something. I'm not comparing him with Larson. Nobody's getting anywhere near Larson, but if that's Larson, that's in the back end, 100%. Yeah. He's no missing that. So I actually felt sorry for him because, as I said, he's been fantastic for us this season. I think he's a brilliant player, brilliant asset to us, and we'll just need to wait to see if because he's not been definitive with any kind of questions that he's been asked on his future. So we'll see what happens with him. I know he's still got a fair bit of his contract to go, but I think if Dyson's back fit and healthy next season, I think he'll be right back on it again. But I think a cracking opportunity missed.
Aye. We haven't had any infiltrators in the chat this evening, which I'm quite surprised about, to be honest with you. But we've got nearly 150 people watching us live at the minute. So If this is your first time watching the podcast, please pop onto the YouTube page and hit that subscribe button for us. Do us a wee favour. Our subscriptions are going through the roof. So thank you very much if you've already pressed it. If you haven't, get fired on to the YouTube page and subscribe. So the game finished, lads, 1-1. Maeda misses that one towards the end there, and it goes to extra time. We only had one chance in the extra time, really, was when Schlupp rattled the bar. So when you hit the post, you hit the bar, and it's not really gone your way. You sort of know what's going to happen. And the game goes to penalty kicks. Up first, Paddy, our illustrious leader, Calmac. Very poor penalty, mate. And nice height for the goalkeeper. And unfortunately for everybody, our first penalty is missed.
Yep, very disappointing, Scott. And I could quite clearly see down below where the toss of the coin. So we won the toss to choose which end of the stadium the penalties were in. So you could clearly see Don Robertson point to the Celtic end, and then he tossed the coin again, and that's for the first taker. And again, he goes straight to Callum McGregor. So Callum had the choice. So he made the choice to go first, which we all agreed with. Absolutely. Yep. Go up there, step up, show the leadership, bang it into the net, and put the pressure on the Aberdeen player. So that means if we score our penalties, every single Aberdeen player that's coming to the spot is going to be under pressure at the Celtic end of the stadium. So absolutely no complaints whatsoever about that. But, you know, when you watch it again, Scott, it's a poor penalty. It's a tired effort, you know, just not like Callum, you know, not struck with any conviction or any real power, you know, not close enough to the corner that it's going to trouble the goalkeeper in any way. And, you know, it's a relatively simple save for Mitov. He makes it look a bit better, but in all honesty, he could have just flopped on that ball, no bother. It was a poor penalty, really, from Callum. And you can just see the agony in his face as soon as he does, because he knows himself. He's handed the initiative straight to Aberdeen with the first kick there. So very, very disappointing there. But as you say, you know, we were all up there thinking the same thing. You know, this is maybe not going to be our day here. You've had a wonderful effort from Engels, rattle off the post. You've had a fantastic effort from Schlupp off the bar, and now you've missed your first penalty. So just very disappointing for Callum himself. But to be fair to the guy, you know, you can't accuse Callum of anything else. You know, he's a very brave lad. You know, stepping up there, showing his leadership and taking responsibility. And he's the one saying, right, I'm going to get us kicked off here with a nice free penalty to get us 1-0 up in the shootout. But it didn't materialise, and you know, I felt sorry for him. You could see he was absolutely gutted as he made his way back to the halfway line.
Aye, and it took me back to Paul McStay missing that penalty. I've not heard anybody mention that. I've not seen any comments. I've not heard Brendan say it. I thought Brendan might have said, you know, remember when Paul McStay did it? You know, it took me back to then. You know, it was heartbreaking, and you could see he was distraught on the pitch after the game. We had all the advantages, as Paddy said. We had the Celtic end. You know, he had the balls to take it first as well.
Yeah.
So credit to him for that as well. But I've got to say it, you know, it was a poor penalty.
It was, like I said earlier, penalties are a lottery, you know, and you can't say it's down to pressure, because Calmac's been in so many of these situations with Celtic that it's just, you know, he's took a bad penalty and the keeper saved it. You know, it's not as if he skied it out of the bar. The keeper's made a save there.
Telegraph for me, mate, I thought.
It was, he's obviously made it easier for the keeper to save, but these things happen. I mean, he looks absolutely distraught, but it's the first time he's ever lost a final. So all he knows is winning. And that's how I think next year he's going to come back with a bit between his teeth and absolutely determined not to make any kind of errors like that again, or even let it get to that point of penalties. He'll be drumming into whoever's in their squad next year. And if we happen to get to a Scottish Cup final again, or a League Cup final, or a particular kind of high-pressure league game, you learn from losses like that. You learn from missing penalties and missing out, and you're seeing other people celebrating lifting a cup. He's never been in that position. He's always been the man getting up and lifting that trophy. So he'll definitely learn from that. It's an unusual thing to see for him personally. That he's not uplifting the trophy, or a part of the team that's lifting that trophy. Just it's a lottery with penalties. You look at Aberdeen, and every single one of them was spot on, you know. So that's something they've obviously worked on. I'm pretty sure Celtic did as well. Maybe they weren't intending it for the game to go to penalties, but you've got to prepare for that as well. So just obviously unfortunate for him.
And then as Andy said, Paddy, all Aberdeen's penalties were unbelievable. They were on the same place as well. And maybe that person in the chat earlier had a great point. You know, Casper didn't want to dive on his bad shoulder, and Aberdeen have picked up on that, mate. It looked like they have. So, I mean, that's an absolutely great spot. But then it goes all the way through to Alistair Johnston. And again, great save for Mitov, mate. It wasn't a poor penalty. It was just a great save to win it for them.
Unfortunate, Scott. It wasn't the worst penalty in the world. Maybe not the best, but it certainly wasn't the worst. But again, just to go back to the earlier point, you know, if we had Nicholas Kuhn, if we had Adam Ida, if we had Arne Engels, probably Alistair Johnston doesn't even take a penalty. You know, so that's when we realised when Johnny Kenny's having to step up, when Luke McCown's having to step up, and then Alistair Johnston. And do you know what? There was just an inevitability about the whole thing, really, wasn't there? I just think that, you know, the football's all about key moments, and goals change games. And, you know, when I think of the way the atmosphere in the stadium changed when they got the equaliser, and then the atmosphere again once Callum missed the first one, those two were massive changes in the entire atmosphere of the stadium. Somebody asked there earlier, did I find the stadium a bit quiet for Celtic fans? And yeah, we absolutely did. During the penalty shootout, I think there was a sort of a sense of dread amongst the Celtic supporters. You could almost nearly see what was coming. And, you know, from the minute that Callum missed the first one, you're basically up against it. The Aberdeen penalties, Scott, were absolutely top drawer. Now, I'm not entirely sure if that's the shoulder or whatever, but they had obviously done their homework. They're putting them high to Casper's right-hand side, and every single one of them went in under the bar. The one from the Palestinian guy, he just absolutely rattled it in. You know, we didn't even see the ball leaving the spot. It was just bang, and it was in the net. So they got their penalties absolutely spot on. Listen, it's no criticism of Alistair Johnston. As Andy said, it's when you get down to that stage, it's an absolute lottery. And sometimes, you know, even managers who are in that situation, you know, it's not even the matter of picking players to take penalties. Sometimes managers are just asking guys, right, who fancies one here? Who's mentally ready? Who's physically and mentally ready to take one? Because it's not just about the mental state. So you've played for 90 minutes, you've played an hour, half an hour, and sometimes the players are absolutely dead on their feet. So even to consider walking from the halfway line to the penalty area and then striking the ball. So sometimes they say the managers just ask guys, right, who fancies one here? You know, we're down to the bare bones here. We need guys just to step forward. And fair play to the guys, Callum included, who all stood up and took penalties. Johnny Kenny, Dyson Maida, you know, Luke McCown. And as I say, unfortunately, Alistair was the one. Somebody's going to miss one that's going to cost. And that's exactly what it was. And as I say, it wasn't the worst penalty in the world, Scotty, but you know, the big guy Mitov has been very good for Aberdeen. You know, and he just guessed right. And he dives down to his right and he makes the save, and it's game over. And it was just very, very disappointing because, again, Callum McGregor has been sensational this season, and Alistair Johnston has been one of the better players as well. So just very disappointing for those two guys who will no doubt feel that they shoulder the blame, but, you know, they don't shoulder the blame. We win as a team and we lose as a team. You know, those were the two guys who were responsible for the penalties. But, you know, when you look back on the entire 90 minutes and the 120 minutes, you know, we had more than enough of the ball, more than enough chances to see that game out without having to go to the lottery of penalty kicks. So it was just unfortunate the way it ended.
Aye, and final word to you, Andy. We've lost the game, but we've showed up, and that's what we do on this podcast. Win, lose or draw, we do come on and show face. Like I said, it's been nice. We've not had any infiltrators the night, which has been good. But just give us your overall thoughts, mate, on the whole game, the whole performance, the whole run, and last word, mate, on the whole season, really, because, you know, that's us. We're the season's by. How's it been for you?
I've loved this season. I think a lot of the football at times hasn't been vintage, I would say, but I'd say the first part of the season was free-flowing football, really exciting, cracking, even starting for pre-season, destroying like Man City, Chelsea. People can say that's meaningless, but it was a good, we kind of carried that on into the season. I would say I'm delighted with the season. Delighted winning anything, to be honest with you. You know, you've got to be happy winning, no matter what it is. If you come in anything, you should be happy with it. We've got a double this season. And you look back at the amount of trebles we've won and doubles, you know, and even just looking at the last 9 years or so, and even just the clips I put out to winning the league trophies since 2000, absolute domination. So we've got nothing to be sad about. We've lost a cup final, it happens, but we've got 2 trophies in the cabinet this season. We continue next season. We dust ourselves down when we get back into it again. We try and bring some reinforcements into our squad to kind of make us a wee bit better if we can. And I'm pretty sure we've already got players here that have been brought in that can improve as well, you know. So they'll have another season under the belt. The guys like Engels and stuff like that. Question marks will be kind of spoke about Kuhn and whoever. And KT's back as well, you know, an absolute born winner. He's a captain for me. I would make him captain. I would. I certainly. Honestly, I would, mate. I would make him captain. I would. I think he's got a wee bit more, obviously, more longevity than Calmac, but that's controversial. But I would. I think he's a captain in the meeting. I would. He was a future captain for me before he left, and he's been away for 5 years. We're getting a better player that left us, so we're getting him back again. So that's something to look forward to next season. Seeing KT back, but obviously disappointed by the cup. I think since excuse me, Bayern Munich game, I think we're seeing Celtic's performance levels drop off. I don't think anybody can deny that. I think that's probably that kind of, you can pinpoint that moment is when it did drop off. We have had results where we've hammered teams 5 and 6 and 4 and games scored plenty of goals, but you could see a difference in the performances from my point of view. But overall, we were still, up until yesterday, on for a treble. So that can't be sniffed at. So delighted, absolutely delighted this season. And I just, I'm going to struggle without Celtic for the summer. That's the only thing I hate. And there's not even any other football to watch in there now. It's got to be twiddling our thumbs and, I don't know, going to watch a different sport or something like that to kind of take my mind.
Volleyball is good at this time of year.
It's difficult, and when it gets to the end of the season, you're looking forward to the end of the season because of the celebrations that come with it, and then when it finishes, you're like, it's like the memes that you see, people standing about their house, just looking about and like, what am I going to do now? We've got nothing to do. We've not got Celtic, so I'm looking forward to next season already, to be quite honest with you. Looking forward to it. When's the Champions League final? Is it this Saturday coming up?
Saturday the 31st.
Saturday, right? Okay, so I'll watch that, and then that'll be probably the last bit of football until we start getting maybe a wee bit of pre-season games and stuff like that. So this is where we get a chance to talk about who we want to come in and who we would like to see go and stuff like that. So that's the kind of excitement of the season starting, new signings coming in, and a wee bit of excitement. But overall delighted with the season and finishing with a double.
Aye, brilliant, mate. Brilliant. Aye, we can have the quizzes. We can do it. This is the thing, ladies and gentlemen. We're having wee chats behind the scenes at the minute. How to take the podcast forward in the pre-season. So just keep an eye on the community page. We're coming up with a few things. We're going to be bringing back the last man standing segment during the pre-season as well. So everybody on the podcast will pick their 4-Leaf Clover podcast starting 11 out of Celtic greats. If you've not seen the last man standing segment before, it was fantastic. We've done it before. It's going to be, 10 separate players. So we'll start off with 10 goalkeepers and we'll get down to the last man standing as it stands with those goalkeepers. We'll go through everybody on the podcast. So, for example, we'll do everybody apart from the Lions. The Lions are exempt from this last man standing because we just have 11 Lions, really, wouldn't we? So it's basically players that we've all seen in our lifetime that are on the podcast. So exempt are all the Lions because they would be picked. So, for example, we'll do Pat Bonner, Peter Latchford, and then I'll go around the panel and they'll pick, and then we'll keep going and keep going and keep going until the last man is standing. It's a fantastic segment, and we will get on it. And that'll be on our first podcast after today. I don't know if we're doing one on Wednesday or if it's going to be Friday. We've yet to make that decision, but we'll let you know in the community post, as I've just stated. Thank you so much, Paddy. Thank you so much, Andy.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. We had like 150, 200 people watching live at one point. So, like I said, doesn't matter if we win, lose or draw, we'll still come on this podcast.
I don't want to go.
I know nearly I've got a few cold cans there. I want to kind of sit and have a laugh. But
yeah,
no, we do come on and we do show face regardless. You know, it's one of them. We know it's been disappointing for everybody, but overall, as Andy said, it's been a great season. You know, we've won the league. We won the League Cup. Got to the final of the Scottish Cup. We were fantastic in Europe. You know, can we complain? As Andy said, you know, it's not always been like this. So, we've just got to enjoy what we can. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy the pre-season. Keep in touch with us on the community posts.
And thanks for your support as well. We continue to come on and watch us and interact with us. No, we appreciate every single one of you, and it makes us look forward to every pod. When it is like a community, innit? They talk about the Celtic family, but you know, it's, when it comes to just guys sitting talking about Celtic and people want to interact with us and take part in it as well. So fantastic to see. So thanks again for your support. We are just starting at the start of the season, so we are just new. So we appreciate it, all the support we've had.
Yeah. And Paddy, last word for you, mate. Have you got anything to say to the people before we shoot off, my man?
Yeah, it's just brilliant to see, Scotty. It's been such a journey this season from something that started off with just an idea when I was on holiday last year, you know, the summertime, and we chats and this is what we want to do, this is what we feel we would like to do, and we had no idea that it would take off the way that it has. And anybody who watches us regularly, and even the contributors, you know, you can see we've now developed and built up our own wee community here. You can see the same names week in, week out, who follow the podcast, who comment, who take part in the debates, who take part in the quizzes. So it's just been fantastic. It's just been a fantastic rise for all of us. So just let's build on this now. We believe that we give good value for your time and for your effort. We try to provide you with a bit of a laugh along the way. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We try to cover all things Celtic, but we do it with a smile on our face as well. And listen, don't anybody be beating themselves up. We've had an absolutely fantastic season in terms of what we've achieved. You know, if you think back to, you know, Bayern Munich, one of the strongest teams in Europe, it took a really fluky last minute goal by Bayern Munich to end our participation in the Champions League, or we could have taken one step further there as well. So, you know, we're champions in Scotland again for the fourth time in a row. We will start next season aiming for 5 in a row. No doubt in my mind that there'll be 1 or 2 players leave, there'll be 1 or 2 players come in, and we will go again come August again. Great news tonight that we're going to be seated in the Champions League playoff draw. So when you look at the 4 or 5 teams there that we could probably come up against for a place in the group stage again, or the league stage, there's nothing there to scare us about that. So we have a really nice, we should have a really nice memories of this season. Yesterday was a bit of an inconvenience. Yes, we would all have loved it to finish on a treble, but it wasn't to be. And fair play to Aberdeen, you have to give them credit. You know, we said before about the tickets and stuff, we were worrying about empty seats. Not very many empty seats anywhere that I saw yesterday. So fair play to the Dons fans for coming down and making it a real spectacle as well. And fair play to Jimmy Teelan for getting his tactics right as well. You have to give them credit where credit's due. But Brendan and the team have given us some wonderful memories this season, some fantastic goals, you know, some big European nights. Andy Algeri will testify to that. The games that we've worked, you know, Slovan Bratislava, you know, RB Leipzig, the memories that we've had from those games, the way Celtic played. Fantastic. We've had a fantastic season. So don't anybody be feeling down about it. We're Celtic. We're Glasgow Celtic, and we're Celtic supporters, and we're faithful through and through. And that's never, ever going to change. So come the end of July, come August again, we'll get ready to rock and roll, and we'll get ready to do it all over again.
Yes, I just want us to fucking start the season now, mate, right now.
Thank you so much, everybody. Honestly, and that's been great. If this is your first time watching the pod, like I said, please subscribe, like, share, tell your pals about this podcast. We do believe that we're totally different from everybody else. You know, we've got a cracking panel. The knowledge on the panel's outstanding as well. So thank you so much. We'll see you next week at some point. I'm not sure when, but like I said, keep an eye on the community post and we'll come up with a decision in the next sort of 24, 48 hours anyway, and we'll see what's what. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your night, and hail, hail.
Hail, hail, guys.
Man of hoops.
Someday you will find me caught beneath the landslide in a champagne supernova in the sky. Someday you will find me